So, just a couple more questions before we close out the deck profile. What's it like to be a total degenerate? Pirates! This is Nathan from Yamato here with Alex from TeamPDX.
Hi.
What did you do today, Alex?
I went to locals and I got first place with Big Mom.
Alright, and what were your matchups like?
It was a majority of yellow and then a couple grape doflamingo.
Yellow is in Katakuri?
Yes.
Okay, so no other Big Moms?
No other Big Moms.
And what do you think about the difference between Big Mom and Katakuri?
So when you're playing Katakuri, a lot of times when you're on your odd curves, you go obviously putting into Pero, into Randolph, into 7-drop. That's like perfect curve. So you're never really using its effect for the majority of the times. And then when you're on your even curves, it also feels awkward because your turn 1, you either summon Sanji or you summon Pudding. But then your 4-Dawn turn, you either do your Sanji effect or you go Pero, and if you have another Pudding, you want to drop it there. But once you get past that, a lot of times the 1 extra Dawn feels a little awkward because when you get to your 8-Dawn turn, you're doing the 8-drop Katakuri or you do your 7, and if you have another Pudding or you draw into it a little later, that's a really good turn to play it, so you're never really attaching it. And then on top of it, I feel like when you play Katakuri, the 1 Dawn is really strong, but once you add a little bit more than that 1 Dawn, like 2 Dawn, I feel like its effect becomes a little weaker than what it should be. So I took Big Mom because I feel like when you're in a losing position, the effect feels a little bit better. And then on top of it, there's sometimes like where you feel really comfortable and you know like, hey, I'm on my 8-Dawn turn, and I don't want to Katakuri here yet because I feel like there's going to be certain matchups like Rebecca, Red Decks, like when they drop a Thatch or if they drop a Marco. And Grape, you want to hit the 7 or you want to hit the, you know, if they have the Nami, you can hit the Nami if you haven't killed it yet. If they have the Gilded, you can hit the Gilded. So there's cards that you can hit with, but sometimes it's not always there. So a lot of times you're trying to go wide. So being able to attach 2 and use her effect felt much stronger, especially when you get to manipulate life, which I call it legally cheating, because you get to look at your, like, I get to personally stack the top of my life. And that can, like, secure you games later in the game, because a lot of times your following turn is a 10-drop. So knowing that, like, what is there can really screw up your opponent's board and really punish them and then reward you for it. So that's why I took Big Mom over Katakuri.
Great insight, thank you, and let's get into the deck profile.
So, standard, you play 4 Puddings, it's your Searcher. This is the card that I was talking about, like, where you feel conflicted. Because outside of, like, your initial 2 turns, it feels really rough to play this at times, especially when you're playing on curve. So that's why, like I said, I don't play the Katakuri, because a lot of times this really comes up, and you need Dawn to search, and if I'm not searching, I'd rather just attach 2 here and manipulate the life to be able to, like I said, legally cheat, essentially. Next, like I said, standard. For streusen, it's a 2k counter. When law was relevant, this was a lot stronger. Now it's just a 2k counter, but when law comes back, it'll be strong again. I know a lot of players cut this, but I still play 3 of these. I used to play more. I used to play the 4th, but I felt like there were some other cards that I would like to see. So we went from 16 2Ks to 15. Still feels strong. 4 Amades. Like I said, this is another 2K. It also, in a lot of matchups, let's say like Rebecca, you can rest the 2 blocker, rest it, so you don't have to worry about it. Against Red Decks, they played the Chopper. And they also play the 2-drop blocker, so this helps clear that. And then green, you pop the, well, not pop, but you can rest their 1k beige, or 1-cost beige blocker. Then 3 Peros. A lot of times, this card also feels awkward when you're trying to look for a good spot to drop this. Outside of your initial turn, it doesn't feel really strong to play this because you have so many better cards that you play. This feels dead more often than not. So if you don't see it in the early game, it feels awkward. It's still a trigger, so it comes up sometimes, but it's just not being a counter really hurts. The last of the, what I call kind of like standard. Next you have 4 brulees. Some are playing 2, but I really like having more blockers. It means I get to stall the game longer, and that's how I play the deck. I just like to stall. After that, there's 4 bege. 2k counter. Trigger out of life is insane. Stopping them from being able to attack, especially if it's your last life. You steal games and it's unfair. 4 sanjis. Blocker. It's a 1k counter. Trigger. It doesn't get popped by everything in the game. You know, brulee kind of does, so it's a little bit stronger. A new addition to the deck, at least for me personally, is the 2 shirahoshi. In the previous list, I really didn't like it because I was only playing 1/8, and I felt like you needed more of the other cards that I'll explain later because Whitebeard was in the format. But without Whitebeard, I felt a lot more comfortable playing this card. So I tested it, and it performed really well. This card was disgusting. Next, we have 3 randolphs. It's crazy. It allows the pudding effect. It allows you to be able to do stuff, especially when a lot of times, like, where, let's say you're on your 8 dawn turn and you're trying to go wide, you can play one of each of these and it feels pretty strong. If you're on your 7 dawn turn, you can attach 2 here, manipulate life, and then drop this still. So it still feels really insane on the curve. Or, you know, the 7 dawn curve at least. Next we played the 2. Originally I was playing 3, but with Whitebeard gone, you can get away with only playing 2. A lot of times it's only there for like the heavy stuff. It's really good into blue, so this is preferable over this. This also can get Uda, this one can. So it has like certain matchups where it feels a lot stronger. In yellow as well, they can't thunderbolt this. So this card feels a little like you can hit it and it's not the end of the world. Like with Thunderbolt versus this, you can't Thunderbolt it. And because you can't do that in the mirror, if they stick this on board, it's so hard to get rid of. Next we have 2 7s. Originally we were playing 3. This card was like the MVP against red, specifically Whitebeard, because if you drop it twice, it really makes the clock on them feel really short, essentially, because they're basically losing 2 life, and then you're still going wide. That's really it. One of the other new additions to the deck, I was only playing 1, but I said let's play a second one. It's kind of like the thing I was talking about earlier, where there's a lot of awkward turns where you don't really feel like that the board that they have is relevant for this, and this can be a brick. So if you don't see a problematic card, this card's always stronger, or this card is stronger, because paying 8 Dawn here feels too much when they don't have anything to remove, but when they do have something that you need to remove, this card's an MVP. It's so strong. Next, for the high-end stuff, we play 1 Yamato. Originally, I had it at 2 at one point, and then I cut it down to 0, but then I was like, you know, with Queen in the format, Grape, even in the mirror, this card does come up every once in a while, especially when you're trying to pop like some of these weenie blockers, or, you know, because you're both trying to like sustain life as far as like making sure that you're not too far behind. A lot of times they'll be at like 3 life or even 2, and you'll be at 3 or 2. So you can pop the Randolphs and you can pop the Sanjis off of this pretty well before your 10 Dawn turn if you're on odd curve. The only reason why this deck is good, 10 drop Big Mom. The last 4 cards that you play are Thunderbolts. I don't play Sovereignty. I never have that 2 Dawn live for Sovereignty to be able to be available. And then pitching 2 cards from hand just feels too much of a neg. It hurts too much. So I just play the 4 Thunderbolt. It's the same mentality with this, where there's a lot of cards that you want to get rid of early. Thunderbolting Nami really early is really strong. You can also hit like a Randolph if you want. Let's say you're on your 8 Dawn turn and they have like a Randolph on board. You can go this, pop this, manipulate life, and then still drop this. So you can do a lot more with it versus Sovereignty. And that is the deck list that I took to the locals today.
So just a couple questions before we go. Now that red's out of the meta, how do you feel about yellow?
It's a lot easier. You're not dealing with Whitebeard, so that 6 is not as strong. So a lot of your monsters naturally hit into it, so you don't have to add the extra Dawn to it. And because the format has really slowed down, Queen wants to like take you super late into the late game. Rebecca, same thing. They want to take you into the late game. Grape, same thing. They want to take you into that late game where they exceed at the 8 to 10 Dawn curve, essentially. So you always are going to be basically the best late game deck. You're playing yellow. As long as 10 drop exists, you're always going to be the best.
Alright, and what about the red-purple Luffy that's also 6k?
So the difference with that is you kind of play it a little like Whitebeard, where if they make you go first, your first turn you drop Pudding, your second turn you just attach 3s and just swing for 8, get that initial hit in. And then your following turn, you'll drop the Randolph, and then the turn after that, if you drop the 7, a lot of times they have to give you that life. They don't want to go down to like 1 just right off the bat like that. And then if they do go down, let's say they do take it, you just swing Randolph into their life. Or if they have like a blocker or something, you swing into like the blocker if they choose to like swing with it. Because I know sometimes they'll drop the new purple law blocker, the one that trashes 2 from hand. And a lot of times for the aggression that they kind of need, they will swing with it. So you can use your cards to like swing into that and just clear it. And then obviously when you get to like the Big Mom, if they have 1 life, you just rip it out of their life, and it sucks for them. It's a really hard matchup. I don't think it's unwinnable for them, but it's still a really rough matchup.
Alright, so let me paint a picture for you. You already have 10 drop on board. They have 2 cards in hand, 1 life left, and you have a 10 drop in hand. You drop the 10 drop, then what do?
You swing for game.
Exactly.
I hate you. You are all bad players. You suck. You suck. My penis is large.
Takes you